Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're watching us from. Welcome to this month's CBMC's monthly learning series. The theme we're going to be covering today is Pastoral Care in Immigration Detention, Realities and Challenges on the Ground. My name is Imelda Richard, and I am the Prison Ministry Coordinator for the Archdiocese of Atlanta. We would like to start today with an opening prayer. And so we'll start in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Loving God, give us hearts that listen for your word. Let us imitate the Good Samaritan who does not turn away from suffering. Help us listen. May we listen to those who struggle daily for dignity. Let us hear your voice and the stories of those on the margins. Help us always see what binds us together as sisters and brothers. Help us to heal. May be willing to stand in the place of others. Let us be open to difference, that we may arrive at understanding. Help us to seek reconciliation, that our world may reflect justice. Help us respond. May our faith move us to action in the public square. Let us work with others of goodwill, finding solutions together. Help us exercise political charity, seeking the common good and dignity for all. Lord, give us the courage to trust in your hand guiding us. Give us the courage to respond like the Good Samaritan, setting aside divisions to attend to the needs of the other. May we know and see your love present in our communities, made real in the ways we love one another. Amen. Thank you for joining us today. We have a wonderful panel, and I just wanted to say a little bit about the current situation that we are encountering. In Matthew 25, Jesus offers a clear and challenging vision of discipleship. He tells us that when we feed the hungry, clothe the naked, visit the sick, and welcome the stranger, we do it not just for others, but for him. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. These words are not a metaphor or an idea. They are a mandate for every Christian. Today, as we confront the complex and often painful realities of immigration in the United States, that mandate feels more urgent than ever. We see families separated at borders, asylum seekers turned away, and migrants often treated as problems rather than people. And yet, behind every immigration statistic is a human being, a face, a story, a child of God. As Catholics, our response cannot be shaped only by politics or policy. It must be grounded in the gospel, in the teachings of our church, and in the compassionate heart of Christ. We are called to see the stranger not as a threat, but as a neighbor, not as other, but as Christ himself. In this presentation, we'll take a closer look at the current immigration situation in the United States, and we'll reflect on how our faith, especially the call to love, to welcome, and to serve, should shape our response. This is not just a political issue. It is a profoundly spiritual and moral one. Pastoral care in immigration detention within the United States unfolds in a complex and often constrained environment marked by human vulnerability, legal uncertainty, and limited access. Chaplains and pastoral ministers encounter individuals and families experiencing fear, isolation, trauma, and spiritual distress, frequently compounded by language barriers and cultural differences. On the ground, ministries shaped by institutional regulations, restricted visitation, and shifting policy that can hinder consistent accompaniment. Despite these challenges, pastoral caregivers strive to uphold the dignity of every person, offering spiritual support, sacramental ministry, and compassionate presence. Their work reflected the Church's commitment to solidarity with migrants and the call to respond to suffering with mercy, justice, and hope. And we have now some charts that we wanted to show you to frame a little bit the current situation. The first chart, this is all information that has been published recently by the New York Times, shows where ICE has been most active this year. And as you can see, the most active field office has been the Miami one, with 120 daily arrests in average, followed by Dallas with 85, Atlanta with 78, San Antonio with 71, and St. Paul, Minnesota with 67. Next, please. Our next chart shows the ICE arrest per capita in 2026. You can see that the most active one is, again, Miami, and it would show you that more than 41,000 arrests have been completed since President Trump took office. Next, please. This goes over where ICE arrests have increased sharply since early last year, where ICE arrests peaked last year, which is the middle chart that shows Dallas, Chicago, Houston, and Los Angeles. And the third chart shows where the areas where ICE arrests have remained flat. New York City, Boston, San Francisco, Seattle. The next one, please. ICE arrests by area since early 2025. We see Miami leading the chart, followed by Dallas, New Orleans, Houston, Atlanta. Next, please. I want to point out that the number of current people in detention that have no criminal conviction is a little bit less than 75%. About 75% of the people currently in detention have no criminal conviction. As you might hear in the stories that we're going to be sharing in this presentation, most people were arrested or detained when they were going to work or coming home from work. Next, please. And this is a very eye-opening chart that shows a map of ICE detention facilities. We have in our panel a wonderful group of people that visit some of these institutions, and we're going to be hearing from them. And with that, I want to introduce you to our wonderful panel for today. We have Sister Denise LaRocque. Is a daughter of Charity of St. Vincent de Paul and was first missioned to San Antonio to serve immigrants in 2016. She served in St. Louis for 3 years and then returned to immigrant ministry in San Antonio. She is a chapel volunteer at the Tilly Family Detention Center, and through her work with the Interfaith Welcome Coalition, she visits individuals in other ICE detention centers as well. Julia Escarnado has served the Hispanic community in the Diocese of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, for the past decade, where she has helped strengthen community integration, provide essential resources, and support the spiritual journey of many Catholics. She also supports outreach efforts supporting immigrants and those in detention centers through pastoral care, presence, and advocacy. As a former religious sister, Julia's service is deeply rooted in faith and a lifelong commitment to the Church. And Sister Elisette Signor is a Scalabrinian sister who has been working with migrants for more than 40 years across Argentina, Paraguay, Brazil, Tijuana, Mexico, Boston, and now El Paso, Texas. She currently serves as the operations director for the Migrant Hospitality Ministry in the Diocese of El Paso, where she oversees ministries in several detention centers, including the largest detention center in the country to date. Sister Elisette will be sharing her story today with the help of an interpreter to give us the benefit of her full range of expression in her native Portuguese language. So with that, we'll move to our first question for today. Our first question for our panelists is, how did the detention ministry you are part of got started?
For me, there's the two parts, because I am involved with the Archdiocese and visiting the chapel in Dili, where the families are held. And that was, it was kind of passed on to me. There were two sisters who were going like once a month to visit when the family detention center opened. They would go and do some prayer with them, and it was coming to the point where they were not able to, and they tagged me and like, well, will you go? So I was able to accompany the priest on Sunday, take the children while they had mass, and it was closed for a little while and reopened. And so I went back and go to pray with the women each week. And we finally were able to get a priest to come in also, and to connect other people with that. So the numbers are pretty low there right now, as things are quiet for the moment there. But with the Interfaith Welcome Coalition, we kind of evolve as the situation with immigrants changes. And we used to be in great number at the bus station and airport to support families, which is very few right now. But the great need are for those who are held in the ICE detention centers and are there for a long time, for months and months, with their cases just stalled, or looking for help. And so we started having volunteers going through referrals, but it's hard, people from all over the country get sent to Texas for detention centers. We have quite a few detention centers, unfortunately, 3 in our area. And so what's helped recently is getting referrals from within. But that's just a little bit about how ours started or is evolving.
Thank you, Sister Denise. How about you, Sister Elisette?
Yeah, let's do it. Help me, Vivian. So, aqui na fronteira, sempre teve muitas iniciativas e pessoas que doaram a vida e o tempo aos imigrantes que passam por El Paso de Passo para chegar aos seus destinos e realizar os seus sonhos.
Here at the border, there have always been many initiatives and many people who have dedicated their time, sometimes given their life, to help migrants who come through El Paso on their way to reaching their destinations and fulfilling their dreams.
O nosso ministério, o Migrant Hospitality Ministry, iniciou aqui na Diocese de El Paso no ano de 2024, em agosto de 2024.
Our ministry here, the Migrant Hospitality Ministry, started in August of 2024 in El Paso.
E a criação desse novo ministério, que não existia na Diocese de El Paso, foi para desmistificar que a hospitalidade eram só as 21 casas de acolhida que existiam em El Paso.
And the creation of this ministry in El Paso, which was previously lacking in the diocese, has served the purpose of demystifying the idea that hospitality was only limited to the 21 welcome centers or shelters that previously existed in the area.
So, desde o princípio do nosso ministério, agosto de 2024, começou a chegar na diocese ligações de telefone pedindo para localizar pessoas que as famílias tinham dificuldades, especialmente de crianças desacompanhadas que naquele momento estavam nas tendas de detenções.
So, right from the get-go, our ministry in August of 2024 started fielding all these calls in the dioceses, trying to locate people who couldn't be found. Their families were anxiously looking for them, especially unaccompanied children who oftentimes were in the tents in the detention facilities.
Mas naquele momento, não nos damos conta que poderia começar a surgir uma necessidade de estar nos centros de detenções.
But until then, we didn't realize that the need might arise for us to be present in the detention centers.
Porém, em 2025, a realidade da fronteira mudou com o fechamento e a limitação da entrada de imigrantes.
However, the situation changed, of course, in 2025 when the reality at the border changed, when the border was closed and access and entry of migrants was heavily limited, of course.
So, no final de 2025, todos os albergues, exceto a Annunciation House, continuam aberta.
So, by the end of 2025, all structures, shelters, welcome centers, with the exception of the Annunciation Center, remain open.
Yeah. So, em agosto de 2025, foi inaugurado o maior centro de detenção dos Estados Unidos, que está no nosso jardim da diocese, para dizer que estamos muito próximos.
And then in August 2025, the largest yet detention center was open, so to speak, in the diocese's backyard.
E eu fui uma das primeiras contatadas quando teve a segunda redada em Massachusetts. Eu, como foi dito, trabalhei muitos anos com a comunidade brasileira em Massachusetts e começaram as famílias, a diocese, as paróquias a dizer 180 brasileiros estão nessa detenção. Por favor, represente-nos lá e visita-os.
So when this started, I was one of the very first people to be contacted when mass detention started. I was previously very active in Massachusetts, so of course the parishes, the churches reached out to me because the count was that there were approximately 180 Brazilian citizens in detention, and families reached out to me desperately saying, please reach out to them, go visit them, support them on our behalf.
Outro ponto é que também tem cortes de imigração, muitas aqui em El Paso, e nas cortes já estava presente observadores que registravam as pessoas e as decisões do juiz.
Another point worth highlighting is that in the immigration courts, and there are several here in El Paso, there already were several observers who were there to observe both the people and, of course, the judge's decisions.
Estavam também intercessores que, em frente às cortes, rezavam e entregavam a Deus essa realidade.
There were also other figures there, people who were there to intercede on behalf of those detained, praying in front of the churches, trying to deliver this to God.
E também estavam os protestadores, que com cartazes e palavras expressavam que o AIS não era bem-vindo nesses locais.
And of course, there was also the presence of many protesters who, with signs and loud words, made it clear that ICE was not welcome there.
Mas ninguém estava aí de fato para acompanhar as pessoas e dar seguimento às suas necessidades caso fossem detidas.
However, there was no one de facto there to actually help those being detained, to follow up with them and make sure that their needs were met.
Exemplo, informar que era urgente escrever no braço um número de telefone para ligar para a família.
For instance, the importance and urgency of writing down a number on their forearm so that they could easily contact their families.
Recolher o carro que estava estacionado fora da corte.
Advise them to remove the car that was parked outside the immigration court.
E estar presente como apoio espiritual, emocional nas suas crises e dar seguimento nos centros de detenção e as famílias separadas.
And also to provide support, whether it's spiritual support or emotional support, and also actually accompany these people in their daily dealings, help them, follow up with them, and help those families that were separated.
Diante dessa realidade, criamos um modelo pastoral chamados a acompanhar os outros por meio de uma hospitalidade que transforma.
So, taking this reality into account, we created a new pastoral model that serves the purpose of accompanying these individuals on their journey through hospitality and support.
So, que seria, primeiro, acompanhar nas cortes, acompanhar nos centros de detenção de maneira individual.
Okay, so there are various facets. The very first objective is to physically accompany, be present with these individuals when they are summoned to immigration courts, accompany them when they are detained in ICE detention centers.
E o terceiro, buscar, localizar e acompanhar as famílias em outros centros de detenção do país.
And then the third part of this objective is to seek, locate, and accompany other members of the family who may be detained in other centers around the country.
Thank you, Sister Elisette. Julia. You are muted.
Okay. So our prison minister began 30, 40 years ago with priests and volunteers visiting local jails, prisons, and with the support of these volunteers and the priests and the diocesan staff, we expanded the ministry to include high security prisons, and also we are very devoted to the death row prisoners. So in these prisons, we assist the inmates with Bible studies, faith formation, and rites of initiation. Every year, our bishops celebrate confirmation and other services in around 5 state prisons in our diocese. So between 10 and 30 inmates receive their sacraments. We collaborate with the Colby Ministry to organize several retreats during the year, as well as other specialists that work for the prison ministry. And we also provide formation and a lot of support to their families. We support the volunteers that are working by training them, by having a special retreat with them, by holding session 3-4 times a year, and updating regulations and rules and emotional distress that sometimes people have. And I will say that this is a main important ministry in our diocese. As you probably know, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, there are a lot of prisoners, a lot of prisoners. So it's we are very joyful to help.
Thank you, Julia. How about what about detention, immigration detention ministry in your diocese?
Yes, we are dedicated to immigration detention center. This is other side that we are very devoted because it's a challenge. By being a little bit of immigrant in the detention center, we are facing one of the most largest detention centers in United States that I have been here in Louisiana. We have several detention center, if not the most in the whole country. So we go there, we visit them. We also support the family that have been under stress. Like she mentioned before, they don't know where they are. They don't know anything about them. They don't have money to pay for food for them or phone calls. And after weeks and weeks that they disappear, we receive contact, and we have Catholic lawyers that they locate the inmate, and we receive the information, and we are able to accompany the family on all of this distress. So it's part of our, our point now, number one, to support the people in all of these detention center. We have one detention center that is in Brazil, for instance, it's just for females, and it's around 2,500 females for all over the world that have been imprisoned there. So anybody from any language are welcome to join, because you will find a lot of sisters inside the detention centers, people from a lot of different situations.
Thank you.
Detention center right now, all the detention center have been a priority, and it's every day is increasing.
Yes, that's a very sad reality. Thank you for sharing this, Julia. I want to mention also that towards the end of this presentation, we will have a few minutes for questions and answers. So please enter your questions in the chat so our panelists will have the opportunity to respond towards the end. Our next question is, what is the biggest challenge your ministry has faced or is currently facing? Julia, we'll start with you.
Well, it's so many challenges, but I will share just a few with you. One of the challenges is the limited access to the detention center and local prisons after the COVID-19 pandemic. And it still sounds like they never update these restrictions, so we have very limited access. And we also have some concern about the priests, being asked and volunteer to do formation because they name one chaplain and the correctional center are very large. So they are very limited to give permit to whoever wants to go in. And furthermore, here in Louisiana, specifically, the physical instructor of the prison is severely outdated. This is a crisis. In some facilities, visitors are forced to wait for long, long lines outdoors where we face a hot weather. Outside, we had to face a cool weather, and we had to endure severe hardship. Not everybody is willing to make those sacrifices with limited number of volunteers. It's very limited. The lack of help from the staff is very difficult here in Louisiana. Another challenge is for when you visit the detention center, the immigrant community has many people, even those who are U.S. citizens, Hispanic specifically, they are fear. They think like even if they are citizens, they will be deported, they will be accused of being, with this person or that person. So they think like if I go, even if I citizen after I visit the detention center, I will face an ICE agent. Therefore, you will see a little people, even the family, visiting the detainee in those centers. The third issue is a combination of the first one because we have volunteers that are willing to go and have a big heart. They speak only English, they don't speak Spanish, so they are not able to accompany these immigrants because they don't have the ability to speak with them. So these are some restrictions. And another challenge that I always would like to face is that people think like all the people are in detention center or in another prison facility are criminals. And people think they don't even deserve a recognition that they are human or they are being there. So it's a big dynamic. So we try as much as we can to train the volunteers and to announce and publish and talk about that they are human and the prison ministry has important ministry like other ministry. And if you start visiting the prisoner here, your brothers and sisters I will see you will never wanted to quit because you are part of their family, their prisoners that are in prison, the workers, when you are going there, you get familiar with, and, and the many graces that come from join the prison ministry. It's more than a simple visit. It's just the grace of God that you see in there. I
Well,
love it so much, and I'm one of the people that say, the time is over. the, the time is over. It's so fascinating to see these people there when you show up. It's just like a big gift. They spend time preparing themselves. They shave, they clean, they want to show the best face, and they wait for you. They waited for you, and they expect and they have hope that you came with this good news, and you know, and embrace them as they are, the children of God.
Correct. Thank you, Julia. How about you, Sister Denise? You are muted.
think we remember when all the time by now, but I think the biggest challenge is that how we treat those in detention and those in prison. We treat them like they're in a warehouse being stored. And I think that decreases the interaction and the feeling of increases the feeling of isolation and depression because first of all, the detention centers are, you know, far from the city. And depending on which place it is, like they bought a new detention center here in San Antonio, and it's a huge, huge warehouse. And so they're going to convert this into a place to process immigrants. And it's clearly going to be set up like one of the other detention centers in the area where they like they have a dorm with bunk beds that are so high and filled with people and then they don't leave that area. They stay there all the time. And so I was visiting with one man and I had asked him if he had been to the chapel, and he had been there like 4 months. He didn't even know there was a chapel. So they're isolated within the facility itself. And then their family often is far away. And so the family doesn't know how to contact, I don't know either who to contact. I was talking to Julia earlier today about, how do I find who's visiting in Louisiana? So the family doesn't know too. Like who can go visit for me? I can't visit. And so the level of isolation is tremendous and the desperateness that the detainees have because a lot of them had status. They had temporary protective status. They were in the asylum process. Some of them have, their driver's license and their social security card and their work permit, and they're still taken. And just everything that they worked for is wiped away. Um, so trying to reach them because you can't just go into the detention center and say like I'd like to see somebody. you know you have to know someone and you have to make those connections and I think in the United States we're building a better connection of who knows someone in another area or who can contact who can visit this loved one and what we have found too is recently in this one of these warehouse like detention centers in our area is that they're referring each other, especially someone who's released or someone that we're visiting. They're saying, oh, this person really needs a visit or that person really needs a visit. So, they're looking out for each other despite being in such a terrible situation. But the challenge to to help them not feel so isolated and so alone. Not just physically from their family and all, but also from God, they feel forgotten and like, no, we're here because God has not forgotten you. We care about you.
Beautiful, Sister Denise. Thank you. And Sister Elisette, you are next.
Eu não tenho muito mais. As Júlia e Denise falaram muito bem, mas só reforçando.
I don't have much more to add. Julia and Sister Denise have expressed it so well, but reaffirming what's been said.
Somente um ponto. Em todas as detenções migratórias, é muito mais fácil entrar para serviço religioso, para sacramentos, confissão e missa, do que visitar de maneira individual.
I'd just like to highlight one point. In all of these immigration detention centers, it is much easier to gain access for religious reasons, for the purpose of celebrating sacraments or mass than generic visitation.
O segundo desafio para mim é quando temos que ir visitar e não só de maneira individual, mas poder representar a família quando não conhecemos bem a cultura, a concepção de Deus, concepção de vida, que temos o sagrado na nossa frente.
And the second challenge I have found is when we have to visit someone, but it's not just an individual visit. We may at times be called to represent the family, and it can be particularly challenging if we don't know that person or community's culture, their idea of God, their idea of life, what sacred means to them.
O terceiro desafio é a perseverança da equipe. Somos hoje 30 pessoas voluntárias de 3 diferentes dominações religiosas.
And the third challenge we face is perseverance as a team. Right now, we are 30 people, all volunteers from several different religious denominations.
Treinados em pequenos grupos,
Trained in small groups.
mas nos nossos treinamentos de pequenos grupos de 22 pessoas, somente 4 respondem ao chamado e sentem que podem fazer esta visita individualizada.
But in our small group training, maybe there are 22 people, and out of the 22, only 4 answer the call and are able to make that visit to the individual.
E está bem, porque o medo não está somente dentro da detenção e com as famílias. O medo também é desses voluntários. O medo da realidade migratória, a longa espera. Essas 30 pessoas não estamos autorizados para o ministério. Às vezes, temos que esperar 2 horas, 3 horas, 4 horas e temos que ir embora sem visitá-los.
And that's fine. Why? Because fear doesn't only exist inside the detention centers, it spreads beyond. And sometimes volunteers themselves experience fear because of migration reality these days, because of the long wait times involved. So we have 30 people without an official authorization for the ministry or on behalf of the ministry, which means they will end up waiting 2, 3, 4 hours and sometimes still be unable to visit the person they set out to visit.
O terceiro desafio é que muitos não podem, com a carga emocional durante a visita, ou os problemas ou a realidade das famílias, especialmente quando são partilhados realidades de enfermidades.
And then another challenge we face is the emotional load, which not everybody is equipped to face, to deal with. So, what often emerges during these visits are people's reality, people's problems, people's life, especially when particular situations such as sickness and disability are shared. Not everybody can deal with that.
E, finalmente, o quinto desafio são os idiomas. A nossa equipe é multicultural, é poliglota, vietnamês, francês, português, inglês e espanhol. Somente esses 5 idiomas e nos consideramos poliglota. Porém,
So, and then the fifth challenge we face, of course, is languages. Our team does speak several languages. Between our volunteers, we can interpret, translate into Vietnamese, French, Portuguese, English, Spanish. So we are multilingual, and yet.
Mas não temos ninguém que fala chinês, ninguém que fala árabe, e nós temos muitas pessoas do Irã, do Iraque, da China, de Bangladesh. É um desafio do idioma.
But unfortunately, we have no one who, for instance, speaks Chinese or Arabic. And there are many, many people in detention who come from Iran, Iraq, China, Bangladesh. So this is the other challenge we face, languages.
Thank you, sister. And we are moving on to our final question for today. And so we can have time for questions from the audience. I will ask our panelists to keep their answer very short, maybe 1 or 2 sentences. So our third question is, how do you hope Catholics in other parts of the country might learn from your experience or take action to support your efforts? And we will start with Sister Denise.
Thank you. I would say the first thing is you don't have to speak the language perfect, or you don't have to feel like you're some theologian or a great prayer leader to go do something. You know, my Spanish is limited, and the women that I see in Dili are very supportive, and it actually encourages them to take more part in helping. The other thing is, like, doing individual visits is that, you know, you can't fix their situation, and you don't have to feel like you fix their situation. Often we want to do things to fix things, to do things, and we're not good at just being present. So that practice of being present and knowing how very, very important that is to those who are experiencing the isolation of detention.
Thank you, sister. Julia, you're next.
Yes, one way that we share is through our website. And I also personally have been a writer for the Catholic newspaper and also another local newspaper that are not Catholic about the detainee life and how I encounter when I go there. I normally do undercover. I don't reveal any names, but I mention situation that happened there. We also go to college. I have been invited to speak and be the panelist in college and university and try to facilitate outside our diocese this dialogue with another non-religious or different religious community that we can think they will be part of this, as long as we encourage the public to know, and it will take the fear away. So sometimes it's not something that you put it there, but you have to be careful.
Thank you, Julia. And now you are up, Sister Elisete.
Somente dizer que o meu sonho seria que em todas as dioceses e estados pudessem replicar esse modelo pastoral que estamos tentando aqui na fronteira, ou seja, corte, detenção e famílias.
I'd simply like to say that my dream would be for this pastoral model that we have here at the border to be replicated elsewhere. And once again, it's the trifecta of support provided at court, in detention, and with the families and to the families.
Segundo, conscientizar, como Júlia disse, nas escolas, localmente falando, de que nem todos os que estão no centro de detenção migratória são criminais.
And then the second thing would be to raise awareness, like Julia said, at the local level, working through schools to reinforce that not all people in detention are criminal or have a criminal background.
E terceiro, criar redes de acompanhamentos que se a pessoa é detida no Texas e vai para Louisiana, que a gente possa dar continuidade, criar essa rede de acompanhamento e apoio.
And the third point would be to create networks of support and also literally to accompany people on their journey. So if, for instance, someone is arrested and detained in Texas, but ends up being detained in Louisiana, there is a network in place to give this continuity and to be able to accompany that individual on their journey.
E conclusão, que todos os católicos possam viver a ressurreição neste tempo pós-pascal, de consciência de que o lugar sagrado que pisamos nas pessoas, pisamos no sentido entramos no coração, é um lugar sagrado.
And in conclusion, I would like for all Catholics everywhere to experience the resurrection in this time that follows Easter with the awareness of the sacred place that we tread, because when we are admitted into their hearts, we are indeed treading a sacred space. And so it would be important for all of us to always bear that in mind.
Thank you, Sister. We have a few minutes for the questions that we have received from our audience. So we can be respectful of everybody's time. I will have to select one or two questions because we also have to go through some announcements from CVMC. One of the questions that I have is from Sister Maria Francine, and she asked, what is the best way to find an inmate for her family? I have never found the eyes online indicator very helpful since spelling of name is problematic. It would be great to have a volunteer advocate available by phone to help us. How do you find an inmate for a family? I'm going to ask you, Sister Denise, to help us with that question.
Really, the only way is through the ICE locator. You need the A number and the country of origin, or it gives you the choice to do the date of birth with the name. I know sometimes it's challenging because the name might not be exactly how you have written it. If people are in the process already of some status or whatever, get the number from them before they even get picked up. Make sure if they have papers, get the number off the papers. Because if you don't have that, otherwise you have to wait till the family member contacts you and get the number. But you can try the name, the full name as best you can and the date of birth. But otherwise, I don't know how else you would locate them. Julia, you had something?
Yes, most of the time in my case, I have a very good Catholic friends lawyer that I call them, and I don't know what their sources they have, but immediately they give me the answer. Is there, is this? And maybe we can reach out. Maybe Catholic Charity has some resources as well. But for me, lawyers have been very helpful.
Thank you, Julia. I have the same experience as well, locally in Atlanta. Our last question for today, and I'm thinking the questions that we don't get to answer on this panel, we will probably be able to respond to you by email directly. Anyone knows where ICE Detention Center is located in the Orlando area? Does anybody know? I am going to jump here and say the ICE website has the option to locate by any detention centers by area. You will have to visit the ICE website to look for any detention centers located in your area. So thank you for everything, for all your time. I will make sure that we get to your answers directly by email if we didn't get around to respond to them in our panel. So we have a couple of announcements to finish our session today. If you are interested in or are already active in ministry detention centers, we encourage you to take a look at our formation program, Call to Accompany. This is a 12-week program, including online learning and 6 virtual small group sessions. We have a full cohort starting this month, and the next is not yet scheduled. But we encourage you to apply now to be the first to know when we schedule. The link is in the chat. We invite you to join our monthly learning series next month when we move from focusing on encounter to invite. We'll hear from Annie Fox about strategies for engaging parishes in our mission to visit in prison. You don't want to miss it. The link to register is in the chat. And finally, please take a moment before you log off to let us know how today's presentation was for you by filling out a short survey. The link is in the chat as well. This service really helps us to make sure our programming fills your needs and interests and help to communicate with our donors about the impact of our ministry. Thank you for joining us today and for giving us the time and your interest. Thank you.